Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. This is How to Invest, Spencer here, and this one's going to be another update on Lucid Group. So I made an update on this stock. This was my first one back in September 15th. Keep that date in mind. We'll mention that later. But that was one of my worst performing videos ever. I'm not really sure why, because the stock had so much hype around it. I think it's because it was during such a doldrum of the stock chart. I think a lot of people lost interest. But that was when I was gaining interest because that was when it was getting much cheaper. And I got this stock for a great discount. I initiated my position on September 1st due to some insider selling. And whenever this occurs within a stock, there is a huge amount of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which is FUD created on online message boards. And just retail investors in general, they always see this as very negative. And for a lot of times, they might even have to for, I don't know, maybe tax reasons or who knows, but they might have to sell the money for some reason other than the stock, or they just want to lock in substantial gains for some reason. But the stock fell quite drastically from over $20 all the way down to 16 during the intraday, and that was a great position to buy, right? As a lot of people were falling out of interest with the stock. I then made a video on the stock 2 weeks later on the 15th, which is when it started to break out. There was a price target that was put out on the street that day of around $30, I believe. And I said that, yes, this will probably go up to around $30, maybe a little bit lower. But it will probably consolidate around there for a little while because that's typically what it's been doing we look at the year to date, the whole year after it fell down from 60. We just had a very hard amount of consolidation and really battleground on how much this stock is worth and how much people are willing to pay. And then in October, this stock broke out along with other EV players such as Tesla and Rivian, which is a newly public stock. But I wanted to make this video as an update on what I'm doing with my position and maybe what you guys would like to do or would want to do if you did buy in at a similar time as me or do have just the amount of gains that I do. So today I sold out of most of my position. I sold out of everything but my cost basis. So I sold out of every single amount of gain that I made in the stock. I trimmed, got rid of, cut the fat off, and I'm letting what I initially invested in the stock ride. Just because I do have mixed feelings about this stock. I do think that it's currently overvalued at the current price, but do see the opportunity for this this stock could theoretically even double again, and I would not be surprised just based off of the industry that it's in and the momentum that it has. Also with the infrastructure bill that was just passed with a heavy emphasis on EVs being put. I just think a lot of investors are prone and apt to invest in greener ways to invest, really. And I think that's a lot of what it boils down to. The stock does obviously have a large amount of retail investors and a large amount of institutions. If we look at some of the stats, we can see that almost 70% is held by institutions. Very little is held by the insiders just because it has run up so much and that they did want to lock in such substantial gains because most of them are in on the single digits and would have over a 10x after it shot up to 60 almost twice. So this is just about 73 or 71% of the stock. Very little percent shorted. The shares outstanding or shares afloat shares outstanding is also pretty low, so we can all do some little deductive reasoning by that and imply that a lot of the stock is held by individuals and retail investors just based off the numbers, because a lot of times these percentages can go over 100 with the amount of naked shorting and dark pools that goes on, where just they don't have to list on traditional stock markets or in places where you can see how it's moving stocks. So that's how you can deduct if there is a good amount of retail investors, is just subtracting the institutions, insiders, and shares afloat. But this only really works if it's less than 100, and 100, it can go over 100 a decent amount of times. So it doesn't always work. If we look at the technicals on this chart, I pointed out that I made a video on September 15th, and when we look at the technicals, that was just about right when it took off. I did say that there was a price target video, or a price target on the street that was put out, and that did initiate a lot of the buying pressure. You see it shot straight up all the way to just about $28. So it went from 19 to 28, which is almost a 50% gain within a week, which is insane. But then even from there, we had a little bit of a consolidation, a little bit of selling pressure from there. Like I said, that's why I had this box that I drew in the video, because I saw this as the consolidation point where people were willing to buy and sell the stock, and we saw a good amount of traders enter and exit out of the stock at these points. So I saw that this would really trying to stay here for a little bit while. And then we did get talks of the infrastructure bill, and then other EV players were really starting to take off around this time, and it exploded out of this box. And you can see that there's very, very little consolidation or support on this stock. We saw a little bit in the 40s, 44s, but that's mostly wicks, which aren't very, very stable. And then we also saw a little bit of a consolidation in the mid to high 30s, but neither of these are too strong. I can draw a line if you guys want to visualize it a little bit right around here. And then another one right around here. Are some a little bit of consolidations where I could see if it falls would be some support for the stock, but I wouldn't really consider these very, very strong. So that is another reason why I did trim most of my position today. I think it's just prudent for any investor after you've had a triple to take some off the table, especially since I do have a lot of exposure to other EV players, mainly Tesla, and I don't want too much of my portfolio going to really one industry because they do typically like to move together. But if you guys made it this far into the video and thought it was helpful, thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.